Thank you all.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
I am good. Hello.
Well, I'm assuming you're gonna have to share your screen, right?
That would be a good assumption. Yes.
Okay. Well then I'm going to make you the host so that you can do that.
All right.
And then I'll just be on for a little bit and then I'll jump off, but you can just let me know if you have any issues.
Okay. All right. How many people do we have showing up these days for these things?
It depends. Like sometimes it's 10, sometimes it can be like 20. So it just really depends on what the topic is.
All right. Well, so I'll let it be. If nobody shows up, I'll let it be about the topic instead of me, huh? Not too bad.
Yeah, but I'm hoping that we have at least like 10 to 15 people on today.
So do I, actually.
Yeah.
So do I.
Yeah.
This is something I work on with my maps clients all the time. So to be able to share it with my own market center is kind of nice.
Yeah. Plus we're recording it. So, and I'll have it up on the YouTube channel later on this week.
Alrighty.
Great.
All right. How timely are people these days?
Somewhat. If they're not all on here, like honestly, we can start around like 11:05 if you want to give people the extra 5 minutes, but
probably won't give them that much time. I'll give it an extra minute or two.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Hello, Authorine.
Hello, Steve. It's
Nice.
been over a year.
It's been so long.
It's
I know.
been forever. Oh my
lifetime.
Yeah. We used to see each other every day.
Yes.
Once a couple, and now it's been over a year.
This whole thing, I mean, it'll be so nice to be able to be in person again. I got to give my mother a hug yesterday for the first time in many months.
Wow. Yeah.
Yes, it was nice.
Yeah. And we're going to go see mine today, and I'll hug her tomorrow. She actually turns 90 tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Impressive. Happy birthday to her.
Yeah. So we're excited about that. Mm-hmm. We are. Whew, we are. Deja. Let me just send a quick text.
Good morning. I'm gonna be driving, so I won't be talking.
Okay, all right, all right.
Thank you. Thanks.
Glad you're here.
Thank you.
All right. Give it a couple more minutes for people to get here.
Yeah,
All right.
just in case they're jumping off of something else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Oh, hey, Teresa, it's been forever. I have seen you forever.
Yeah. I haven't been in the office too much in the past
Mhm.
year.
Yeah. Steve and I were just saying we used to see each other every day and then maybe, once a quarter, and now it's been over a year.
I don't think I have been in the building since the pandemic started. When was the last time I was in the building?
Yeah. It's been very different.
Yeah.
But you know what? We all get to I'm not gonna say experience. We all get to experience this before. I mean, we all get to experience this together.
Right.
Because I don't think anybody on here has ever been through a pandemic.
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most
Right.
definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's interesting how I did a round of bonus calls with all of my MAPS clients last spring when this started, and just walking all of the teams that I work with through, what were the differences and the apparent differences between what we were starting to go through and what we went through starting back in 2007 when the big shift happened.
Right.
And they were very, very different.
Oh, absolutely.
They have, and what we talked about last spring has very much proven to be true. Very much proven to be true. And so, this didn't have the impact on us that we all at first thought it might.
Yeah.
And in fact, just the opposite. Most of my clients had record years last year and are off to strong starts this year. So,
Yeah. It's amazing because we talk about that all the time on my mastermind groups. Like everybody's like, oh my God, we're in for a year. We are gonna have less business than we've had in forever. And that was opposite. Everybody in that group that I mastermind with has had record years.
I told all of my people early on, I said, look, this is different and here's why. And I walked them through all the reasons. That one was caused by the housing market. This one we had nothing to do with causing. Homeowners have equity now. They didn't 13 years ago when we had all the, ninja loans and stuff. We had a bubble in housing prices back then. We're still not in a bubble for housing prices now. We still haven't fully caught up to the 4% appreciation line. On and on and on. And at worst, it was just going to time shift some transactions, and actually it was going to drive more transactions that would take off the plate, which it has. And for the most part, and this is the part that hurts, the people that were impacted the most severely economically are the ones that aren't typically homeowners anyway. Which is heartbreaking for them that, the ones that could least afford to be impacted were the ones most impacted. Just as a statement of fact about the housing industry, it's why it didn't have much effect on the housing industry.
So. All right. Well,
all right. I think
it's right at 11:04. And if you will allow me, I will do a brief introduction and then you can tell them who you are. Because one of the things that I admire most about you, Steve, is, and I admire you, but it's beyond that. It's your parents, right? Because I remember talking to your mom years ago. We were talking about real estate, and funny enough, it was when the market crashed, and there was a group of us that went from class to class to class, right? And so I'm like, why real estate? And she said, well, I had this kid that decided that he wanted to go to Duke.
Yeah.
And that kid turned out to be you. And what I admired about that, right, and this wonderful career that we have is that they use real estate and they put you through Duke.
That's a big part of what today's conversation is about, really. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes people think I'm admiring them because of them, and I do. But I believe in honoring the ones who dug the well, and I believe in honoring the shoulders in which we all stand on. I was telling you that my mom is turning 90 tomorrow. And so I got a negative COVID test, thank the Lord, so I can get on a plane and go hug her. And so I just want to speak to legacy today and how all of us can use this absolutely wonderful vehicle to build lasting wealth and legacy for generations to come. And so you all know Steve, he's not unfamiliar to you guys. He was a top agent. He was a top team leader. He is now a fantastic MAPS coach. He's got a beautiful family. They're all real estate related. And so if you want to add anything, go ahead and take it away. For us to get Steve on our schedule, we book him months out. And it is my pleasure and my honor and my privilege to have you speak whenever you're available. So I thank you so very much.
Wow, thank you for that introduction. And by the way, I mean, that was perfect in so many ways. Not only, I'm so glad you brought up legacy and wealth, because those are definitely key parts of what we're going to talk about today, but also thank you for bringing up my parents. Because, I mean, I have accomplished a lot in this career, and it's not, it's only because of the opportunity I had to get into the business with my parents, who were already quite successful in this business. So, I fully acknowledge and appreciate that I was born on second base in this industry, Authrine. And the one thing that I can take some credit for is I was smart enough to know that I didn't hit a double. Okay. I was smart enough to know that I had a head start, and I took advantage of that to learn as much as I could and take advantage of the opportunities as much as I could, and honor my parents by taking advantage of the opportunity that was created. So thank you for that. That means a lot. All right. So, this is one of my favorite topics, and in fact, there's so much to talk about that there's no way we'll be able to truly cover all of the aspects of this just in an hour today. But what we're talking about today is investing as real estate agents in real estate for the purpose of building wealth. And this is something that I work on with all of my MAPS clients. My MAPS clients are primarily higher producing agents and with big teams, and we are very focused on wealth building. So for starters, for those of you who can be on camera, please do, and jump in and speak up, whether you're on camera or not. I very much hope that this will be a conversation and not an hour-long lecture. That'll be less boring for everybody, including me. So please jump in and interrupt me at any time with any questions or comments or thoughts, or if I need to make something a little clearer. Even if you disagree with anything, I'm never afraid of pushback. So please, let's make this conversational today, as always. And I'd like to start out by just finding out who that's on the call today already is a real estate investor, who actually owns investment property. Anybody? I see
I
Chris.
do.
You do. Good. All right. And Chris is here ready to get started, huh? Right? Excellent.
George,
yeah, George is on. I'm sorry, I'm
George
driving
does
right
too.
now. But yeah, I own several rental properties.
And George.
Okay, great. So this conversation applies to everybody, and I'm glad that all of you are here. Now, where I'd like to really start off with this is by exploring the difference between rich and wealthy. and putting a definition around those two different terms for the context of today's conversation. When you hear the term rich, what do you think? What comes to mind? What's the definition or impression of that?
Lots of money.
Lots of money.
Maybe like extravagant. I think about it in terms more like, I feel like wealthy is an overall, like you have rich family relationships, you like, that's part of your wealth. But then I think about rich just being money.
That's good. That's very good differentiation between the two, because wealth is much more than just financial. And when it comes to the financial aspects of the difference, rich is temporary, and rich tends to be extravagant, whereas wealth is long-term. Wealth is generational. So Authorine's use of the word legacy when we were first getting started, just was such a perfect word to use. When you're rich, you're funding a lifestyle from your active income. And when you're wealthy, you're able to fund a lifestyle from your passive income. Which sounds better? That is an entirely rhetorical question, obviously. Which sounds better, to fund a lifestyle from passive income or from having to continue to chase rats day in and day out?
Passive.
Right? Passive. We want to get out of the rat race. Exactly right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start screen sharing now. Are y'all seeing that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So for those of you who are not aware, Gary Keller and Dave Jenks and Jay Papasan, their second book, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, also a bestseller, and also one of the key books that you need to know and employ in your business, both as an agent for clients as well as for yourself. And there is an investor workshop, an investor seminar that we all have available. And I have actually done this investor workshop for live audiences about 4 or 5 dozen times in my career. And I actually just did it for all of my MAPS clients a couple weeks ago in order to teach them not only more about investing for themselves, but also how they could take investor activities and use it to grow their actual transactional income as well. And that's something that I'd be happy to help for Quan as well. So you're going to see a few snippets of the Millionaire Real Estate Investor Seminar presentation today. We're going to skip over most of it because that takes a couple hours to go through anyway, and that gets into the transactional aspect and not just the personal aspect. So I'm going to focus on the parts of the seminar that really apply to us building wealth for ourselves today. And I like right out that Gary defines financial wealth as unearned income. Unearned income to finance your life mission without having to work. Passive income, having multiple streams of income. Somebody want to say something? All right. When I'm doing the seminar live, I'll actually draw this cash flow quadrant out on a big Post-it note and walk people through it. Authorine, you've seen me do this before. Chris, you probably have as well. Maybe a few others of you. We want to, let's talk about Robert Kiyosaki of Rich Dad, Poor Dad fame. Robert's second book is The Cash Flow Quadrant. And this is an important concept to understand in terms of what we do for a living. The 4 quadrants are E, S, B, and I. in that order. We always talk about them in that order. E, employee. You work for somebody else. S, self-employed. You work for yourself. The quote unquote all-American dream, which can be a trap. On the right side, the business quadrant is when other people work for you. And then the I quadrant, investor, is when money works for you. You'll notice that, okay, so when you're on the left side, you are trading time for money and without leverage. When you have a job, you trade time for money, you clock in, you clock out. When you're self-employed, hopefully you are trading time for more money, not always, but you're still actively having to work and do everything. MREA itself, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book and models, are really about us moving out of the S quadrant as real estate agents and into the B quadrant, where you have other people working for you, okay? You are now trading money for time. You're paying for leverage in order to spend your time doing higher dollar per hour activities, higher quality activities, and higher quality of life activities, frankly, as well. And ultimately, the goal for everybody is to get to the I quadrant. And you can do it from the E quadrant, you can do it from the S quadrant. Ultimately, if you're ignoring the I quadrant, you're going to be running the rat race for your whole life. What types of passive forms of income and multiple streams of income do we have available for us in our lives? Come on, interactive part. I'm sorry?
Rentals, property.
Rental property, absolutely.
Profit
Absolutely.
share.
The social
Profit share, absolutely. What else? Keep going.
Stock dividends.
Tax, yeah.
bonds.
Yeah. Yes, putting money, investing money into financial assets like stocks, et cetera, for growth and dividend income, et cetera.
Does Social
Any-
Security fall under that category?
Technically, yes, it's a form of passive income. And our goal here today is to make sure that you don't have to rely on it when you're old enough to qualify for it.
What was Chris's question?
Social Security.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah,
What about referral income? Would that count?
absolutely. That's a great one. Actually, that one doesn't come up often enough in this conversation. Somebody trained you well. So that was good. Absolutely. Referral income is basically passive income. It's the highest dollar per hour activity we can do as an agent. It's to send out a referral and get mailbox money. All right. When you are living in the left side, employee and self-employed, and being a real estate agent is self-employed, you are living in the job side of the equation. When you are able to turn your real estate practice into a business, which is a whole separate class and conversation. Bob Klinsky's running your business like a business, which Bob has given me permission to teach. And when you are an investor in all these different ways, you are living in the wealth side of the equation. All right. So MREA has the process broken out into 4 steps. Think $1 million, earn $1 million, net $1 million, receive $1 million. In the case of investing in real estate, in the case of MREI, it's the same basic process. Terminology is a little bit different. Okay. We think $1 million, we get our mindset prepared to become investors or to become more deeply focused on investing. And then it's buy $1 million, buy enough properties to where their market value is $1 million or more, which allows you to eventually have equity of $1 million or more and potentially receive $1 million or more a year in income from your properties. Now, why don't more real estate agents do this? Why don't more people in general do this?
They're not informed.
They're not informed. Absolutely. One of the key reasons.
They have to have
To
all
be
the
scared.
money, the down payment money.
They need the down payment money. They don't have it. Okay. Another key part of this. Yes, I heard somebody else. Keep going.
To be scared, losing money.
Yep. That absolutely. Afraid of losing money. There's risk involved, which by definition there actually isn't. Okay. When we go through the whole Millionaire Real Estate Investor seminar, we attack all of these different things that get in the way of people actually doing this and break it down. When you do this properly, there is extremely little risk. Okay. And investing by definition doesn't even contemplate risk. Okay. An investment is simply capital that is deployed in a way to generate a return on the investment. Now, well, what happens is we tend to get our financial priorities wrong as a society. And I think in some ways that tends to be kind of exaggerated in our industry. Okay. And we think we want to be rich when in fact we want to pursue wealth, not being rich. And being rich, in a lot of ways means looking rich, the extravagance that was referred to earlier, and confusing consumption with need. So this slide that's on the screen right now is one that I spent a lot of time talking about in the seminar. The bottom half of the slide where it's basically the dark triangle, you see it starts with consumption. That's the biggest aspect of shadow wealth or appearing rich. That's when your life is based around consumption. The term conspicuous consumption comes to mind. And only at the end is there any attention paid to cash flow and capital. Whereas when you're building wealth, the top half of this graph here, the foundation is capital. And the final piece, okay, the cherry on top is the consumption. Consumption is not the daily focus, it's the bonus at the end. So when we flip the script on how we perceive and how we handle our finances, we find that actually we're not that far away from having the down payment necessary to buy that first investment property authoring. So some questions come to mind here now. Do you have a net worth statement? This is a question for each and every one of you on here.
What was your question, Steve?
Do you have a net worth statement? Are you calculating what your net worth is?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
I got some yeses and I've got some nos.
Yes.
Okay. For starters,
Yes.
what you focus on expands. So knowing what your net worth is, it's just a number, okay? Even if it's a negative number, it's still just a number and it's a starting point, okay? For those of you who have a net worth statement, how recent is it? When's the last time you updated it? When's the last time you looked at it? How
Every
often
week
do
or
you
2
update
weeks.
it and look at it?
Um,
Oh,
every,
yeah.
okay,
I'm
every, I'm sorry, this is Yvette. Every time that I purchase a house, at the action process, I always do my net at that moment, but my husband always change it. But I always do
Okay.
at that time.
Gary Keller updates and looks at his net worth statement every week. It worked for him.
And there's a joke behind that, Steve. You know what it is? He has so much of it, so it gives him pleasure to go look at it every Sunday.
Yes. And don't forget that when he started doing that, it wasn't so pretty. Okay. He started, okay, there is a lesson to be learned here. He didn't start doing it when it was a nice, pretty number. He started it long before, and that helped him stay focused on the right things. Okay. He definitely lived an inconspicuous lifestyle for a long time. Okay. There's, the stories that you hear at International about Mo Anderson having to get on him to get a somewhat nicer car for when you go pick people up at the airport in the earlier days of Keller Williams are true. So yes, Gary Keller does have a very nice net worth, and he started doing this long before that was the case. Yvette, you have something to say?
Yes, I'm sorry. I think I misunderstand your question. So you said that when or how many times we have done our net or prepared our net. So according with that, according with you, we have to do it every week, even though we don't have the closing at that time.
Yes, Gary Keller would say yes, because other things are changing in your life.
Yes,
okay?
you're right. You're right. I got
Other
it. I
things
got
are
it now.
changing. And the more frequently we look at it, a couple things happen.
Yes.
Okay, our small decisions change. Okay. We're less likely to buy what Robert Kiyosaki would refer to as a doodad. Okay. Those items on the end cap that grab your attention, and you end up buying it even though you had no intention of buying anything like that when you walked into the store. Okay. The classic avocado toast and Starbucks coffee conversations. Okay. The more frequently you look at your net worth, the more likely you are to make better small decisions. And the small decisions are the ones that nickel and dime us away from ever being truly wealthy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so part of that conversation is understanding what your current debt is, unless you live a fully cash lifestyle, because your debt affects your cash flow.
Absolutely. When cash flow is going to debt, that's a hole below the water line in your boat. And being aware of that is very important. So looking at your net worth statement, not only, it's great that you're buying assets. Okay, that's wonderful. And updating it every time you buy one, yes, that's great. I'm so glad that it's not that you're doing it wrong, that you're doing it right. Let's do it even better. Okay. You're a great example for everybody here. So I'm really glad that you're on the call and participating. By the way, when you're doing your net worth statement, make it real. Okay. Your actual net worth statement for these purposes is not the one that you turn into the bank when you're applying for a loan. Okay. Your furniture isn't worth anything. Okay. Anything like that is worth what you can sell it for this weekend on Craigslist. You can leave town one step ahead of the law on Monday. Okay. That's all it's worth. Count real assets, not fake assets. Your couch that you spend $2,000 on is not worth $200. Okay. Don't count that stuff. Focus on your real assets and your actual debts. Chris.
So what tool do you recommend to use to calculate that information? It's like an app like Mint. Is that something that's useful, or how would you calculate?
Mint is a great one. A lot of people use Mint. Okay. Teresa and I used Mint. I'm not sure if we're still using it. Teresa actually developed our own internal spreadsheet that she updates every week. So a spreadsheet, you can use Mint. You can just use any traditional net worth statement form. And by the way, track it over time. Every time you update it, it should then be tracked so you can see the difference over time.
Yes, we do still use Mint. It also helps me quickly update my personal spreadsheet, but it also helps you set budgets, your net worth. I don't know. I go in depth because I'm a big C. But, it has all our credit cards, our insurance payments, every expense we have every month, so we can track our cash flow in addition to our net worth. So we know this is the income coming in, this is the cash going out, and are we making ends meet just on a basic level? And then if we have extra cash, where will we assign that cash each month?
Mm-hmm. It allows us to make the decisions of when money is going into regular investment accounts or into retirement investment accounts or into rental property, et cetera. So when you're doing this right, it's your net worth. It is you're living by a budget and knowing your cash flow and your personal balance statement on an ongoing basis. So Mint works great. A regular paper form works fine. I've got spreadsheets that are based on net worth that you can use that will help you track over time as well, or you can marry a high C and let her do it for you.
That ship sailed for me.
So, when I did the whole MREI seminar for all of my maps clients a few weeks ago, most of them are already investors, but a couple aren't yet and are wanting to get there. And so some of the things that have come up here came up either as questions that were personal for some of my clients or just because they come from our other clients as well. Before you're ready to start investing, you want to eliminate any debt you have on depreciating assets. Okay. You're not necessarily ready yet, but you start making very positive and fast progress on your net worth when you pay down and pay off credit card balances that are not getting paid off in full every month. Past due taxes, and if we have time, I want to spend a little more time later on talking about making sure that we're handling our taxes properly. Student loan debt, automobile debt. Automobiles are depreciating assets. You need to make sure that your taxes are current, that you're able to file and pay your taxes on time by April 15th every year. Yes, I know I got pushed back a month this year, but I'm going to stick to my script. If you're not able to file and pay your taxes in full on time every spring, you're not controlling your money well. And if you're not pulling money out of all of your income and prepaying your taxes like most people actually do via withholding, then you need to be setting money aside and paying quarterly. And if you're not doing that, then you are paying extra money in taxes because of penalties and interest for not paying at least quarterly. And that is yet another leak below the waterline. If you can't pay your taxes quarterly or monthly or bi-weekly, you're living above your means. If you're not separating that tax money out as soon as the money comes in, then you weren't paying attention in pre-license school. Anybody remember the term commingling?
Yes.
That money that is going to be owed in taxes is not your money. Okay? We're not going to get anything else other than to say, it's the rent we pay to live in a great country, and we pay it. And it's not our money, okay? We just have to look at it as a buyer's earnest money or a tenant's security deposit. It is not our money to spend. Do not commingle it with money that you're going to be spending. Set it aside immediately, just like the real estate commission requires. Don't treat it any differently. Okay, you also do need to fund reserves accounts, both business and personally. That was one of the questions that came up with my clients a few weeks ago. You know, if you are worried about, you know, the risk of having, you know, vacancy for a month or two. Well, if that could be a problem, then make sure that you've got sufficient reserves set aside, which you should have anyway. And then that piece of the small piece of risk goes away. Okay. And make sure that you've got appropriate retirement accounts set up and that you're funding them. That is another important part of building wealth and living in the I quadrant, and making sure that you're not going to have to rely on Social Security. And of course, make sure that you have sufficient insurance as well, health, life, disability, etc. So this is something really important. And most of us did not even realize this, but we were so far off track when we first went to get our real estate licenses. We don't sell real estate to get wealthy. You're not selling real estate. You're not working with buyers and sellers in order to become wealthy. You are working with buyers and sellers in order to generate capital, which you can then deploy into wealth building vehicles, such as the stock market, retirement accounts, and most importantly, investing in real estate. We sell real estate in order to buy real estate. That's the most important piece to take away from this conversation today. You are selling real estate in order to be able to go buy real estate. Unless you really love lead generating and dealing with crazy clients and obnoxious co-op agents that much, okay, then remember the reason why you're doing this is to make enough money to be able to buy real estate, to give yourself the options in life that you deserve to have. Even Steve Murray, who's a top industry expert in evaluating real estate brokerages and teams in terms of what they're actually worth, says it very, very clearly publicly all the time. Don't think that you're building a business that you're going to be able to sell and walk away from with a substantial amount of money. The way you become wealthy in real estate is to buy a lot of real estate because you did a good job of selling a lot of real estate. And as Gary Keller points out, we have a nice advantage. By the way, there's another big advantage that we'll talk about as well, but we have a nice advantage in that we're in and around real estate every day. Our ability to value and evaluate real estate is continuously being honed. We have a skill and ability that we deploy for our clients that we need to be deploying for ourselves as well. You know the value of real estate way better than the average person does, and be using that for your advantage. Every time you go on a listing appointment, you should be asking yourself if you should be buying that house instead.
Thank you. Thank you. I was thinking about that.
Absolutely. Every time you go on a listing appointment, every time you're showing property with a buyer, you should be asking yourself, if they don't buy it, should I? I'm going to take that a step further. And I'm going to say with every property that you show to a buyer, not just asking yourself whether or not you should buy it, really you should be asking yourself, how much would I offer for this property?
Exactly.
For every single property. I'm going to amend that statement in just a minute, but I want to get the basic point across. Every house that you interact with in your day-to-day activities is one you should be wondering, considering, and evaluating as to whether or not it should become a part of your portfolio.
Can I add a tangent to that?
Please do.
We're currently helping our daughter look for her first house. And one of the things that we're talking to her about is would you be able to turn this house into a rental when you're ready to move on to the next house?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I talked about that with, clients for the last 22 years. I even talked myself out of listings on occasion where they realized, I could keep this as a rental instead of selling it. And I felt good about that.
Yeah, because we could kick ourselves for selling our first house off when we moved to Atlanta, because that was in South Florida and it appreciated so much. But, this was before we were understanding investing in real estate.
Which is why it's fun to be able to take our journey and share it with others so that you can benefit from it. All right. By the way, MREI was written the same way Millionaire Real Estate Agent was. Gary and Dave and Jay and their researchers went, and just like they interviewed so many successful agents and teams to write MREA, they interviewed 120 successful real estate investors in order to write the Millionaire Real Estate Investor book. One of them, by the way, an Atlantan by the name of Don DeRosa, came one night when I was doing the MREI seminar, and he was in the audience, which was pretty cool. And I asked him afterwards what he thought of the presentation, and he said it was spot on. He wouldn't change a thing. That was really cool. I was so nervous having him in the audience that night. Okay. It happens slow and then it happens fast. But when you start thinking like an investor and altering your small decisions on a daily basis, and putting yourself in a position to be able to make the down payment on your first investment property, overall, this whole time, your financial life is improving. And then once you start buying property, it's Gary Keller loves to talk about the hockey stick. It happens slow and then it happens fast. And that's what will happen here as well. So I said that you should, figure out how much you would offer on every single house that you ever interact with. The one caveat to that is that every investor needs to have criteria. Know what your criteria is. Criteria is very simple, okay? Does it, single family or multifamily, detached or attached, HOA, no HOA, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, but determine what your criteria is and stick to it so you get to know it really well. That just adds to that ability to know value at a really high level, and including being able to have a good idea for how much something would actually bring in monthly rent. Everything that meets your criteria, you should consider. You're always looking for opportunities. And with the investor mindset, you wake up every day with the mindset that I am an investor today. I'm going to look for opportunities and see whether or not I can make a deal. Just like MREA, we have models in investing in real estate. Okay, and we're going to spend a couple minutes on each one of these, and then we go more in depth in them when we actually do the whole investor seminar. But by the way, if you don't have a copy of MREI, of the Blue Book, you need to get one. You need to read it. It's as important a book to have in your library as MREA, as Shift, and as The One Thing. Okay, the net worth model, we've been talking about that. Okay, and again, we get into how the typical American consumer tends to confuse discretionary spending with what we actually need to spend money on. We don't actually have to have every streaming service. We don't actually have to eat out that often. We don't actually have to spend that much on cars and clothes. When we get clear about what is actually discretionary and what isn't, we can then free up money to have capital, money to spend in investing. learn to live on 70% of your after-tax earned income and invest the rest, someday you won't be able to spend 70% of your unearned income. Pay yourself first. Set money aside, scale your lifestyle down to where after taxes, you have extra money that you can start setting aside and investing with. Okay, the financial model. This is the public version. The 3 benefits of real estate: cash flow, appreciation, and principal reduction. As real estate agents, we have a 4th benefit. Who wants to go for bonus points? Who wants to go for extra credit today? What is the 4th benefit of real estate for real estate professionals?
Commission.
Commission.
Yeah. Well, when you buy and sell, yeah, okay, there'll be a 5th benefit, I suppose. You do have that on an ongoing basis, on a much bigger scale than the commission.
Maybe
There is a
like the-
4th benefit. Teresa knows, but she's staying quiet. She's going to give everybody else a chance.
The resources, like the access to the information.
Nope. Okay. No problem.
May I say?
Go ahead, pal.
Tax.
Your expenses are tax deductible directly off of your income.
Including the depreciation formula.
This benefit is
Depreciation.
not available to regular investors who are not licensed active realtors.
Well, it is, but only to a certain extent. And most of the people that are investing in real estate, their income is high enough that they no longer qualify to benefit from depreciation, because there is something that is, the tax code refers to as a passive loss limitation. So you can only write off so much in passive losses, which depreciation is absolutely a passive loss. There's a difference for us. We are full-time real estate professionals. Our depreciation, our losses on investment property are not passive. They are active losses. We can fully depreciate every investment property we own, and that will have a big impact on how much you actually owe in taxes. The tax strategies of owning real estate are nice when you are a real estate professional. They are amazing. That becomes another class in and of itself in terms of, learning about 1031 exchanges and how depreciation works and et cetera, but it's not hard. Y'all, this is not hard. It doesn't require a Duke education to understand this. It's easy. Yes, I see a couple of hands. Chris first.
So the depreciation part you're talking about, what are you saying is depreciating? The asset of the house is depreciating, or
Yes.
the maintenance on the house, that kind of stuff?
Well, your actual expenses, okay, are tax deductible, okay, but actually the house itself, houses depreciate. According to the tax code, material assets depreciate. Now, it's a tax thing. I'm not saying that the house is actually deteriorating and it's gonna, disappear into thin air after 27 and a half years, but the tax code says that over 27 and a half years, the house becomes worthless, because it'll eventually someday have to be replaced. Now, the cool thing is I can depreciate a house all the way down and then turn around and sell it to you, Chris, and the depreciation starts all over again.
Okay.
All over again. It's not a tie to the house. It's not an easement that runs pertinent with the land. Okay. It is entirely the owner's depreciation, not the property's depreciation. It's just a formula. Business is nothing more than a math equation. And with depreciation, it's nothing more than an IRS formula that says These things depreciate at these rates. Now, when you're doing this really well, you actually bifurcate the property. Certain things depreciate faster. The land itself doesn't depreciate at all. But when you bifurcate, you actually can accelerate the full amount of the depreciation you get. But if you just do it the simple way, at 27.5 years for residential and 39 years for commercial property, the tax benefits are dramatic. And you can avoid ever paying the taxes legally through things like 1031 exchanges.
Thanks.
So this is a really fun topic to really sink your teeth into and get to learn.
Steve, I have a question about the 1031 exchanges.
Sure.
How this works, how benefit is for the investors to do that? And is any attorney that you highly recommend us to use?
In Atlanta, John Markham with Starker Services is a great one to use. You always use a qualified intermediary. You can't close on the property and then the next day decide to do a 1031 exchange. But it's a very simple process. There's a simple stipulation that you add into your purchase and sale agreement that the other party never cares about because it has no impact on them. And then the property actually exchanges hands through a qualified intermediary like Starker Services for a small fee. The benefit is you don't pay the taxes. You continue to, what you're doing is you're just taking money out of one investment and moving it into another investment without creating a taxable event.
And do you know if every time that we move that money, the attorneys will have to charge us for those movements?
Yeah, there's a fee every time to the qualified intermediary for them doing their part. It's fairly nominal. It's a no-brainer expense in terms of the benefit of what you're going to save in taxes. So it's just another one of the costs of doing business. Just like, think about it this way, Yvette, I don't know how you handle your properties, but Teresa and I, we're very busy doing other things. So we don't manage our properties. We pay property managers. It's just a cost that we factor in overall. Part of our criteria is making sure that we're going to have certain cash flow after paying a property manager, so we don't have to worry about 3 a.m. the toilet is overflowing phone calls. So it's such a cost that we factor into the numbers, just like doing a 1031 exchange. It's not that expensive. And considering that you're going to be paying taxes otherwise, it's really, it's crazy not to do it. Impossible.
Steve, do you mind repeating the attorney's contact information for me, please?
Well, Starker Services is the name of the company here in Atlanta. You can just Google qualified intermediaries, 1031 exchanges in Atlanta. John Markham.
John Markham,
I think, with Starker Services. Has been doing it for a long time in Atlanta. But they're easy to find, but you need to use a qualified intermediary, a QI.
QI, okay.
Yep.
Really appreciate that.
Yep,
And
that allows you to move from one property that you've depreciated into another property. And by the way, when you're doing a 1031 exchange, it's also called a like-kind exchange, which throws people off. You don't have to exchange a single family detached property for another single family detached property. Okay, like kind is a very broad definition. As long as it's held for investment, you can exchange one property for 3. You can exchange a single family for a quad. You can exchange residential for commercial property. Okay, as long as it's property held for investment, it is a like kind exchange.
So it doesn't
the tax
matter
strategies get really interesting here. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No,
So it doesn't matter if you are going to purchase a property and rent it out versus purchase a property and do a flipping. So nothing is different between those kind of properties, right? You can do it either or.
the whole flipping versus holding conversation takes us down whole different paths that will actually sometimes change the equation there a little bit on the 1031. But that's, there's, in the long term, buy and hold rental properties where you're going to truly become wealthy, whether it's residential or commercial or multifamily. You can really break that out into 3 different categories. In general, flipping can be great if, again, you treat the money that you make from it like the commission money that we earn from regular transactions, which is keep enough to pay our modest lifestyle, but primarily use the benefits to buy more real estate with. Okay, not a Lamborghini.
Okay. Thank you so much, Steve.
And Steve, I want to give Yvette a resource that I just had to use because I needed credit. The Real Estate Express has a great 3-hour CE class on 1031 exchanges. And it goes very deep and it's not boring at all.
And by the way, so I'm going to bring this up as well. I'm glad you just triggered that in my mind. I first started studying investment real estate at a deeper level when I got my GRI designation many years ago. And there's a national trainer out there, Tom Lundstedt, Lundstedt, who I got to know in that class. And there is an online version of his investing class that you can take that does qualify for CE in the state of Georgia. And it's a great way to learn about how to evaluate rental properties and how to calculate all the different returns and help you really understand how to calculate cap rate and cash on cash return, and why cash on cash return is actually the most important metric with your real estate. So McKissick is an online CE company that has Tom Lundstedt's investing classes in it that you can take, very inexpensive for invaluable information. And the guy's funny as hell. He really is. Guy's a character. He was a catcher for the Chicago Cubs back in the day, and he's just a big guy with a big personality, and he's just a lot of fun. Even in the recordings for this online class, it's a great way to get CE and learn a lot more about this topic.
And I'm sorry again. I'm sorry. What is the name of that company?
So McKissick. Offering, if you'll email me later and remind me, I'll go find the link for the class so you can share it with everybody. All right.
I will.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
This was fun. Let's do this again soon. I love hanging out with my Quan peeps.
Oh my God. And you just only scratched the surface of it.
Yes. We can spend a lot more time in this topic. We can go through the whole investor seminar to see the rest of it, and also learn how to use it to generate investor clients so we can make more commission income to go buy more property ourselves. There's so much more we can do with all of this, and I would love to help. So
okay, so that's the next class.
Okay, well, let's make that happen.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to everybody.
Bye, everybody.